I cannot believe that we're already in the back half of 2024.
Are you kidding me?
But here we are. Before you know it, the calendar will be turning again, and that means we are already getting ready for 2025 conferences, and one that I'm personally very excited to attend, again, is the InsightEDU Conference. If you care at all about growing enrollment and building a student-centered higher ed experience, you really should be at this conference. Registration is now open, so secure your spot while early bird pricing is still available. Visit InsightEDU.com for more information and to register. That's visit InsightEDU.com for more information and to register.
Hey everybody, this is Elvin Freitas, co-founder of the Edup Experience, and today we are extremely excited to announce our paid subscription service. By subscribing today, you will get exclusive early access to ad-free episodes, extended episodes, bonus episodes, original content. That's right, original content and invites to special events, all while helping to sustain Edup. To become a subscriber, go to edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com and subscribe to our free email newsletter to learn how you can get access. Again, go to edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com.
Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to ed up on the Edup Experience podcast, where we make education your business. This is Dr. Joe Salustio back with you another episode. I am on the campus of Lucian, where I work now, because many of you that follow know that I, after 23 years in higher education institutions, I made the sidestep to educational technology, and I'm in one of the focus rooms right now. There's no table, so I've got my soundboard on my lap. I've got my mic in my hand. But what I do have, for sure, is an amazing guest that I can't wait to interview. Little did we know that we would be in the same city when we have this conversation, and I probably should have reached out to you in advance and come and saw you and recorded in person, but I didn't think about it. Here she is, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get her in now. Her name is Nicole Bean. She's Chief Schools Officer at International Baccalaureate. Nicole, welcome to an EdUp microphone. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you, Joe. And meeting in person would have been fun.
Yeah, we could have recorded it at the Lincoln Memorial. That's where we should have done this.
More fun.
And then we would have been on location. It would have been a whole thing. But maybe next time, Nicole, we'll get there. Tell us a little bit about International Baccalaureate. What do you do and how do you do it?
Sure. Thank you, Joe. So the International Baccalaureate, short as IB, is a holistic education provider, and the organization was actually established back in 1968 in Geneva. And our presence in the U.S. here actually began in 1979. Today, the IB education is actually implemented in more than 5,800 schools, 800 schools across 162 countries. And 2,030 of those are in the U.S. 1,900 are in the U.S. and across these schools, there are 2,330 programs. And what's interesting to know is that basically close to 90% of our schools in the U.S. are actually in the U.S. public school system. And that's making the IB presence in the U.S. actually the most extensive among all of our countries, particularly the public area. And more notably is the fact that 55% of these public schools are actually in what we call the economically disadvantaged background, and students live in urban areas. So we're proud that the IB serves as a great equalizer in education, where every student is able to access consistent and world-class education, regardless of their demographics.
Amazing.
So let me see if I understand the model right. So IB is a college prep pipeline, if you will, program, and are embedded within K through 12 schools or high schools, primarily, I would guess, right? In public education systems around the country. Is that
correct?
And why? Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say that it's K to 12, so it's not just college prep. And we do have 4 different programs that serve students across, from basically preschool all the way to high school. And the programs also prepare students both for career directly after high school or into university. So it's really about the student's own journey.
Tell me about your role as Chief Schools Officer and your responsibility set.
Sure. So as Chief Schools Officer, my job is to look after the schools and district's journey with the IB. And this journey starts when a school or district expresses an interest in introducing one or more of the IB programs in their community. So we start by supporting schools in creating the right conditions to ensure successful implementation of the IB program. So then we can bring learning and teaching transformation that's capable of delivering the knowledge, the skills, and dispositions that is fit for the future. And we also provide consultancy support to take schools through the authorization process. We offer school leaders and teachers a suite of professional learning opportunities to become acquainted with our pedagogy and to develop the capabilities to deliver the IB education. And once that school is authorized, we support ongoing program development and continuous improvement, both by furthering professional learning or connecting with the broader IB community. And what's most exciting in my view is that when a school or district brings the IB into their environment, they have access not only to our flexible education framework, our many professional learning and teaching opportunities, but also the IB educator network. And this is a network or a community of inspiring global educators who come together to co-construct the IB curriculum with the IB. They serve as our professional learning workshop leaders. They serve as our examiners. They serve as site visitors, amongst many other roles. And they're so passionate about teaching and innovating within the IB framework and about learning and sharing and supporting each other in strengthening their own teaching practices. And that's really inspiring to see.
Epic.
So is IB provide a curriculum? Is there a specific curriculum that you're embedding within the institution? Are they following are they allowing you, or are they following your curriculum toward an outcome?
So the IB is not a curriculum. We're actually a framework. And that's what makes schools and districts really like the IB education, because this framework actually gives teachers and school leaders lots of agency and ownership to design their own curriculum that's really relevant. And because it is a framework, it allows them to actually incorporate their local requirements, local culture, et cetera. That's important to their context and their environment into the framework. And because we are a global education, we do truly believe that to be global mindedness, you really have to first embrace the local importance and significance. And this framework allows you to do that.
I like that.
I have to ask you, when you talk about a framework, are there predetermined, is there I don't want to say predetermined, that's not the right way to say it, but is there a list of outcomes that you're trying to achieve in advance? Now, as the teacher, at whatever level, I'm embedding my best teaching practices within this framework, and that framework, my teaching practices enhance what's already included in that framework to achieve this outcome. Is that the way it works, or are the outcomes, because an outcome could be a test, right? It could be a testing or rankings or test scores, or it could be some kind of learning metric.
Mm-hmm. Great question there, Joel. As you probably know, the IB is very much a holistic education. So we focus on not only developing knowledge, but also skills and dispositions and values that essentially prepare you for a very, unknown kind of future. So to that end, outcomes are actually a set of the learner profile, right, which has all the competencies that a student would need to continue to thrive. as well as the approaches to learning, which are skills such as communication, research, critical thinking, etc. So then you can thrive beyond high school. Now, at the end of our middle years, as well as our diploma years and our career-related program, there is an exit exam. But the outcomes are very much part of that holistic learning process. It's not about regurgitating facts that you know. It's really about how to apply the knowledge and also the understanding conceptually into the real world. So our exams are actually not your multiple choices, or not simplistic as such, but it's very much about applying critical thinking skills to analyze a problem.
I like that. All right, that's how it works in the real world. Nobody's giving you a test on the job, right? Your test is that you get your work done in a timely manner and that you critically think through problems. And you know, what we're seeing, at least at the higher education level, is a great question of value of education, specifically of degree education. I think that most people would agree post-secondary education is valuable in any form, but specifically degree education is under attack. What are you hearing from students, parents, administrators, teachers about the value, plus or for or against still a degree education, a 4-year degree?
At the end of the day, what we really want to support students is whatever they believe is their next journey, right? Whether it is a degree education, whether it is immediately going into a 2-year kind of career progression, our programs are designed to support that. I think, you will find a pocket that still says that degrees are important. And then I think at the end of the day, it depends on really the direction that you're getting into, right? And
Yep.
to really support all these different interest areas. And that's why we have the career program, a certificate program, as well as the diploma program, which focuses much more on your traditional 4 years. But our career program also allows you to basically start to experiment. If you think you want to go the non-degree program, you can do that. But if you change your mind and you want to do the 4-year degree program, it's also flexible enough for you to do so.
How do you decide if a school is IB ready? You know, like I'm sure there's got to be some schools where perhaps there's disorganization or they're not ready. How do you ensure that a school is prepared to operate within that framework? In other words, how do you choose, or do you choose, or how does that whole process work?
Yeah, I would equate, I think, this question to, as teachers, right?
Yeah.
We choose students that come into our classroom. If a student comes in and say, I'm interested in learning about X in your class, we will work with students to make sure that they actually have the necessary foundational base to really be receptive to that learning. And we use the same approach really with our schools. We believe that when a school feels that this is a program that's beneficial to their students, we do all it takes to support that school. We provide, as I mentioned earlier, as part of my role, we provide the consultancy process to really work with schools directly in many different ways, right? They can work together as a whole community, or they can send schools directly to some of our workshops. And we stay with the school for as long as they need until they get to the point where their peers will say that we think you're ready. And the nice thing is that many of the services that the IB provides to support schools are services that are supported by our community of IB educators. So they have gone through the process themselves. They know what it takes to become an IB school, an IB educator. So they're very equipped in essentially helping schools to contextualize their own experience so that they can really embrace the IB program in a way that works for them.
But really, with all of that, you're saying if you believe that you want to help students and that IB can help you, then IB is going to be there.
You just made the list!
Right?
And IB can be there supported by basically peers who have gone through the experience and know what your experience. So that makes it really powerful. It's not the IB sitting there telling you what to do and how to do it.
So a little bit of co-creation along the way. How do we work together? How do you give us a little bit about the history? How old is IB? Where did it originate from? How are you global, local, regional, national? Give me an idea of the scope. Calling all higher ed marketing and enrollment management professionals. Hear. The InsightEDU Conference is back. This is your chance to level up your marketing and enrollment management strategies, and the Edup Experience podcast will be there once again. Join us at the Ritz-Carlton, New Orleans, February 12th through 14th for an unforgettable conference. Registration is now open with early bird pricing.
Outstanding.
Hey, everybody. This is Elvin Freitas, co-founder of the Edup Experience. Are you enjoying the conversation so far? Good. I hope so. Did you know that you can actually hear this conversation early before anybody else and ad free, so you don't have to hear my voice during these ads? And did you also know that you could get extended episodes, bonus episodes, original content? That's right, original content and invites to special events, all while helping to sustain Edup? Well, if you didn't know, now you know. So go to edupexperience.com, that's EDUP experience.com, and become a subscriber today. First, you got to sign up to our free email newsletter, and then you'll find out how to become a subscriber. Again, go to edupexperience.com.
Mm-hmm. So the IB started in 1968, very much by the history is by really diplomatic families who move around all over the world, right? And so where can their students go to school, particularly if you have 12 years old or you're in a country where you don't speak the language. So that's how an international education concept came into being. And then we started to move across many different countries. And today we are in 162 countries. And
outstanding.
Every region in the world, 162, basically 75% of the countries. And in every areas, we also work with schools in their local languages if necessary. And it's really, really powerful when we see educators from around the world come together and share practices that are in their local context, but yet it's framed by this education that we can all identify with. And that's very inspiring to see.
It is. It sounds that way. He's at 162 or 164?
62.
How many do you know that I'm not putting you on the spot. This isn't like a quiz question. I'm not testing you. But do you know how many countries there are? I don't know. I was just thinking that
there's 195 countries last that I checked.
Oh my gosh. If I asked that question, I did ask that question. I can guarantee you there were very few people that know how many countries there are in the world. And I think it can change, right? Like, because they can realign and rename. Interesting fact, but that's a lot of countries to be in. There's a lot of cultural implications that must come into play as you're working with schools across the world. Can you talk about how do you manage the cultural differences, the global network of people that you have to ensure? I mean, because if you're talking about a framework, you can deliver a framework. That framework, when you have that broad of a reach, people take liberties. They could change the framework, and you may not even know it in Liberia or somewhere, and you go, wait a minute, but we need to keep consistency. So how do you keep consistency across those 160 plus countries, and how do you account for the cultural differences as you march towards a certain set of outcomes?
Really, really good question, Joe. And I think that's the power in the framework that is designed from from the pedagogical perspective, where the outcomes is the competency that we're striving for. So within this framework, there are some key and core areas that we design for. So, for example, to design to get that consistency that you're talking about, right? And also commonality. So I'll give you an example from the primary years program, right? It is framed around 6 big ideas or 6 big questions that are developmentally appropriate for students at that age. So the big questions are, who are we? Where are we in place and time? How do we express ourselves? How the world works? How do we organize ourselves? And how do we share the planet? Now, whether you're in the Middle East, in the US, in Africa, these are all questions that children are asking at this age, right? So exactly how that one sharing the planet question applies in one region versus another, that's where the local contextualization takes place. So that we're all still marching towards the same conceptual understanding and towards those outcomes that are competency-based, but that it leaves room for the local requirements to be embedded as well.
Can you talk about the infrastructure of the organization a little bit? Like how big? You have 500 employees, 50,000 employees. How do you? Because if you think about that scope, talking about a global scope, there's people in multiple departments, whether it's curriculum mapping or framework building. I'm making this up. Framework building and there must be, like a response team where if a teacher has a question about something within the framework and they go, I got to call support. Can you talk about the organization itself? Is there a central home base? Do you have, global offices? And what's the size of the organization?
So the organization is getting close to about 1,000 staff members. And we have 4 or 5 offices around the world. So to basically serve the region. So we have an office in Geneva, an office in the Netherlands. We have one here for this region. And then we have an office out in Singapore. And our big assessment operation is in Cardiff. And how we operate is because we have these regions, we can be in touch with schools that are in the similar time zone. So for example, in our European office, we support schools in Africa, we support schools in the Middle East, and of course the whole of Europe. More importantly, it is really, I keep referring back to the IB Educator Network. That network, we have about 40,000 strong educators who really support us in many aspects of our work. While we have, like in my office, for example, we have a team of former IB educators who serve as relationship or account, school managers. And of course, schools can always come and ask them for support and advice whatsoever. But it's really our network of educators all around the world that we reach into for a lot of the support work as well. Because one, they are in the region, they know the language, they understand the local context, so they can be very, very effective in supporting the community. And that's why when you join the IB, you're not just taking on a program, you're actually joining a really inspiring community of educators who are there for the exact same mission and goal of creating a better world through global education and intercultural.
Excellent.
So you said Cardiff, Geneva, Washington, D.C. I thought I heard Netherlands in there, and one more. Singapore. And of those places, as chief schools officer, have you visited all of them?
Frequently.
You frequently visit all of them. And of all of those places, which is your favorite to visit?
Oh, that's not a fair question.
That's a fair question. There's got to be one place you go, yeah, I want to go back there again.
Well, so here's I guess a little biased answer in that right before this role,
Yeah.
chief schools officer, I was on the education side, so I looked after all of our programs, and I was based in the Netherlands for 7 years, and of course, with my children having their education experience there, and 7 years is a long time, so I do have special affinity, let's say, for that, for that office.
Cheers.
That's a good answer. That's a very good political answer. You get out of it. I would like to go to Singapore just to see it. I bet it's absolutely spectacular. Anyway, but that's me. This is a really important job that you have. It's a responsibility to help educate young people and prepare them for the world of work. That's what we do in higher education as we have people cycle in from high school as traditional students. It's a responsibility for an adult student who comes back to school and is trying to reskill. But in particular, you have kids in their formative years, and you're talking to them about post-secondary education. It's a huge responsibility. How do you think about or document the impact of IB? And what's that impact? What's that measurable or demonstrable statistic or bullet point that you say, this is IB's secret sauce in terms of outcomes? This is why we do what we do.
I think, Joe, it goes back to what I was saying earlier, that our goal is to really support students' own or personal goals, whatever it is that they choose to do after high school. So to that end, I would say that we have a lot of research studies that shows that one of the outcomes clearly is post-secondary studies, right? And no matter which region in the world that we do the study, what we find is that our students have consistently outperformed non-IB students in terms of post-secondary study enrollment, as well as persistency through their post-secondary studies.
Epic.
So, and the difference and compared to national average, we're talking about a 20% type of difference. So, for example, in the U.S., we have a study that shows that 85% of the diploma program graduates choose to enroll in university immediately after high school, compared to the national average of 66%, for example. And their graduation rate after 4 years is at 89% compared to 72%, for example.
I mean, that is such a good stat, right? Because you talk about coming into college. There's a difference between coming in and being successful, and there's a grit factor that is developed in the formative years, being able to fight through adversity, to persevere in difficult situations. And college or this post-secondary ed provide lots of opportunities for you to showcase that grit, right? Whether it's through homework or through responsibility or projects or maintaining time management and balance and mental health and all of these areas. So that grit, teaching grit, I don't know if you can teach grit. I think you have grit, but we talk about it in higher ed all the time. Like, the student has to have grit in order to make it through this stuff. Do you talk about that type of characteristic? It could be grit or perseverance or determination or something similar for students?
We certainly do. IB is recognized as a quality, but also rigorous program, right? And we talk a lot about good stress versus, bad stress.
There you go.
And in life, there will be times when you do have to struggle through, right, to achieve what you want to achieve. So it's really helping. So we focus a lot on student well-being to really understand that, there are times when you need to work persistent through problem. And we provide support to both students and teachers to really support that well-being. In fact, that's such an important part of what we do that we have collaborated the last 2 years with Harvard University, Oxford University, with a big funding from, a foundation to focus on well-being. What are some promising practices as well as some validated practices that we know can support that, so that students can have both grits and, well-being at the same time, and finding that right balance.
Yeah, it's all about balance. What else do you want to say about the IB that we haven't talked about? Anything going on? Any announcements you want to make? Anything that you wanted to say about the organization?
Well, a couple of things I would say is, one is, well-being is a big one, right? Because we know that that's a challenging area for many students. And
yes.
The other is that we're really proud of the fact that over our history, there are now 2.5 million IB graduates, and every year we're sending, more and more transcripts, like 200,000 transcripts to the universities all over the world. And the other area is we're all, talking and experimenting with AI, and that's another area that we are really encouraging our schools, our students, and our teachers to experiment with it. And we're providing some fundamental framework for students to understand how to utilize it in such a way that it actually can support critical thinking and analysis. And,
artificial intelligence.
Yes. And we have, since last fall, had hosted 14 different events, bringing experts and practitioners to share practices. And it's definitely an area that teachers are very interested in learning more.
Yeah, it's I think that teachers, faculty, instructors, even the general public now is starting to get on board and use AI and expect that artificial intelligence is embedded in some of the things that we do in our daily life, particularly when we go to school. We're expecting that the school is going to be a leader in these AI technologies, and in many institutions that is not the case. The schools are behind the student, so that's something that we have to reconcile, I think, as we move on. This has been amazing, Nicole, and I'm going to ask you if you'd stick around for a minute, and I'm going to ask you one more question that only our subscribers to the Edup Experience podcast will be able to hear. But this has been an honor to have you here and learn about the International Baccalaureate and your role as Chief Schools Officer and the great work, and I say great work, that you're doing to serve students. Ladies and gentlemen, here she is. She's Nicole Bean. She's Chief Schools Officer at International Baccalaureate. Nicole, it's been great to have you today. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. You just ed up. Higher education is evolving. And if you're in marketing and enrollment management, then you need to be at the InsightEDU Conference.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
InsightEDU 2025 is happening February 12 through 14 in New Orleans, Louisiana. This is your chance to explore the latest trends in higher education and discover new and innovative strategies to level up your program marketing and enrollment. Hear from some of the best speakers in the industry, from companies like Google, LinkedIn, Adobe, and more. Registration is now open, so secure your spot while early bird pricing is still available.
Hey, everybody. This is Elvin Freitas, co-founder of the Edup Experience. Did you enjoy that conversation? I hope you did. Did you know that you can actually hear this conversation early on and ad-free? And you can also hear extended episodes, bonus episodes, original content. That's right, original content, and invites to special events, all while helping to sustain Edup. Did you know that? Well, if you didn't know, now you know. To become a subscriber, go to edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com to subscribe to our free email newsletter to learn how you can get access. Again, that's edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com.